This is now where I'd like to get to know the guests more because clearly, I mean, you've been
Sure.
around, you are a person of methodology. I can see. So, share with us a little bit of your early life experiences. I'm not interested in the resume part. I'm interested in tell us, start with where did you grow up and how did you become interested as a kid in things
Yeah.
that you're doing today?
Good question. I mean, so I grew up in San Diego, California. Grew up going to the beaches, to the zoo, the world famous zoo that we have here. And I had a passion early on for technology. So anything that, I could get my hands on that had a screen that I could take apart and figure out how it worked. I would take apart like CD players and radios and make the motors do different things. And, my obsession or fascination, I guess, with technology brought me to in the early days, like when I was still in middle school and high school, to eBay. That's actually the first place that I found something where, hey, I can make money on eBay before I'm even old enough to get a job, technically in the US. And all of my friends are out getting jobs, and I'm selling, whatever I can on eBay. And so that's how it all started. And of course, eBay has its challenges, but back then it was real fun. So I would combined my two hobbies, my passion for making money and my passion for fixing things. And I started my own little business right after high school where I would go buy broken electronics, cell phones, laptops, whatever it may be, things that I knew I could fix myself. And I would buy them for cheap, get the parts, fix them, and resell them on eBay. And eBay was fantastic for that. And I had a good ride, learned a lot about some of the basics of e-commerce doing that before getting into the Amazon space. But yeah, it started off on eBay, believe it or not. And I know a lot of people have a similar story to tell about how eBay was the first place where they began selling.
Yeah, it was easy. So how did your family take this? I mean, did they like the fact that you were doing this and making money without really graduating first and getting a job
Yeah.
properly?
There was a bit of skepticism, I'll say. It's like, oh, how long is this going to last? Or, what kind of a career, exists in marketplaces? It was all a little bit new still to everybody then. And it's funny, I actually did a lot of this on the side while I was working a regular job at Chase Bank. I was a fraud analyst at their headquarters in Tempe, Arizona. And I worked a late shift. So I would go around in the mornings and buy my iPhones and fix them up in my car. And then I'd get to the break room at work and list them all on eBay, and they'd be sold by the end of the night. So I think there was, maybe a little bit of skepticism about how long it would last, but certainly as the years went on and I had other opportunities and the rise of Amazon's marketplace with agencies and tons of ancillary companies that are springing up. You don't have to even be a seller to succeed in the marketplace industry. You can be working with sellers, providing tools, building tools for sellers. There's a lot of different ways to get involved. And of course, while we didn't necessarily know it, I didn't know it, in 2014 when I got started. The future is e-commerce, and we're leaning in heavily, especially over the last 4 years. So I think those doubts have probably subsided quite a bit.
Yeah. So, but what got this started was your interest in you call it technology, but I call it engineering because if you're breaking things up and then putting them back together, because I used to do the same thing, and
Yeah.
that's engineering, and I ultimately ended up becoming an engineer. So I'm an engineer by training, and in your case, what was it that attracted you to that kind of stuff as a kid, taking things apart? Where did that come from, do you think?
I think it's a natural curiosity that I have. I always want to understand how things work, why things work, and that extends to, even my career choices, I think. Starting with, taking apart a radio or a CD player to figure out how the laser moves so precisely to scan the disc, or how the magnetic tape holds information to play audio or video. Extended to, even my first job at Chase Bank, like how do you trace fraudulent activities on credit cards? How do you know that it was a fraudulent purchase when you're one of the biggest banks in the world? And even on Amazon, it's a natural sense of curiosity about what would this do? What would Amazon's algorithm do if I take this action, or what would the response be? And so for me, I think it stems from that natural curiosity that I have. I always want to know how things work, why they work, and if we can make them work differently.
And why do you think you are a curious person?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that one for you. But I think it's a good trait of mine because it's led me to a lot of good opportunities. So
Oh,
I
curiosity is a great, sometimes it could be dangerous, but it's definitely the right thing to have. But a lot of people are maybe some people are curious because they are skeptic, so they want to understand why, and they ask why more than other people. But I think the ask in my business organization, we have a saying: you get to the root cause of an issue by asking the question why 7 times.
yeah,
So because every time you ask, you are taking another layer, and ultimately, you end up with something that's nothing to do with the first answer.
right.
So
And
so I think,
asking why, I think, helps you. It makes you makes it easier to make good decisions, right? If you always know the why and are constantly understanding the why behind everything, you make better decisions.
yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, clearly that worked for you. So definitely doing the right things, and there's nothing to say other than keep doing it, and definitely look into that the numbers in terms of how they are related. It's another
Yeah,
curious situation, and I'd love to know what you find. So email me when you
sure.
find and let me know. So